The Echo of Light in the Shadows of Divided Realms. Prologue. The Echo of Shattered Silence. Under a silence nearly suffocated beneath the thick dome of night, Kaelin Arkwright stood on the edge of the wooden platform suspended above the Graveyard District, that boundary between the peaks of earthen towers and the fading moonlit sky. Moments ago, his breath had danced in rhythm with the city's royal broadcast, a sharp siren awakening the workers and announcing a new council decree, a ban on any evening gathering without a permit. The scent of burning wood wafted from the nearby forges, striking his breath with a wave of heaviness and sorrow, as if fate itself reminded him of a battle waged deep within his heart, a battle of fear and regret he dreaded even in silence. From beneath his tattered oilskin coat, he glimpsed the glow of the upper camp, where nobles' golden belts gleamed over armors and around bellies that feasted more than any festival could honor. On the other side was the People of the Shadows, that hidden world cloaked in factory smoke, where the roar of heavy machines twisted in endless groans, reminding Kaelin of a return where his teeth were broken under the weight of poverty's labor. He listened, truly listened to the silent stream of unseen tears that poured onto his heart as he recalled the faces of his friends, those who had seen in his eyes the glimmer of a coming revolution after years of stillness. A black question echoed in his mind, born from the rebel of Cain. How can a single cry shake this world and reorder its layers completely? He did not yet know the answer, but he saw clearly that the cry would become something far stronger than the echo of boots on gravel. In that very moment, a door of fear opened inside him. He feared that the cry might be the start of something even more destructive. He had seen the tears of his sister Nira as she collapsed in his arms, helpless, when flames consumed the wooden shacks and the scent of her burned skin would never leave him. Suddenly, the wings of regulated magic unfurled within the upper palace corridors. Massive blue lamps lit the exquisite crystal tubes that carried enchanted rays to the princess's gardens. Deep in his chest, Lord Naithor Sungwara felt a subtle tightening, like one who senses smoke creeping along the borders of his white palace. He stood inside his ornate office, studying the reports that labeled Kaelin Arkwright as the silent threat rising from the fourth tier. He gave a bitter smile, as though counting the moves of a most dangerous psychological game he would play to tame this young man who had refused to surrender his fate's last bite. Amidst this tension was Lana Roseville, cloaked in gray, walking quietly behind the distant city walls, well beyond the ears of the upper class. Her heart pulsed with faith that unless the chains were hanged by their roots, the darkness would continue to seep through the social layers, carrying with it endless misery. She remembered a distant voice, a cry not yet born, but she heard its call deep within herself, and she mingled the dust of her palms with the fragile threads of hope. Evening deepened, and the flags of Olin Palace ignited atop its towers, while the workers' quarters glowed with pale oil lamps, hiding behind faded murals on the walls. Guards' eyes flickered in palace corridors with lantern light, but none felt what Kaelin did. The sleeping rebel within him was waking little by little, stirred by a growing desolation with each passing day. He closed his eyes for a moment and imagined the instant he would unleash his cry and shatter the suffocating silence. And so the silent questions begin to be recited. Can Kaelin break through the wall of fear built deep within his soul, sharing his pain with his comrades to offer them hope? Or will his dark convictions find their way into his heart and erase even the last remnants of his humanity? Does Naithor Sungwara truly believe that magic is the sole right of the upper class? Or will his choices lead him to a discovery that shatters all his worn-out beliefs? And what role will Lana Roseville play in this psychological equation? Will she surrender to the shadows trying to pierce her heart, or will she remain the faint flame that dispels the clamor of darkness? Here, in the realms of the kingdom of light and shadow, all await the moment when the leaves of fate will unfold. The curtains fall before the scenes to come, but the door remains open, and the voice of silence waits to be broken, to begin the true echo of the journey, for heroes and enemies alike. Chapter 1. Vanishing into the Shadows. In the pale dawn, tongues of smoke trembled above the roof of a remote shack in the graveyard district, and the sound of trickling water, mingled with cries and tears, erupted through the air. In that moment, Kaelin Arkwright's heart pounded with exceptional intensity as a deep loneliness crept into his soul like the shadows of an endless night. It wasn't just smoke alone that stirred unease among the living. His younger sister, Naira, had vanished without a trace. After the night patrol ended, Kaelin began searching for her through the narrow alleys veiled in a thin layer of dew. The scent of his sweat mixed with the scorched earth's odor, reminding him of the guilt that haunted him ever since his failed rescue attempt when she was a child, trapped in an earlier fire. In those dark hours, a stunned thought echoed within him. How could Naira disappear without a sound or sign? Inside him stirred a blend of terror and hope, groaning beneath the weight of memory. He remembered the last time he saw her calm smile before the guard's shouts drowned her voice into silence. Fear sat on his chest like a heavy block, squeezing his breath as his lungs constricted around a question. Have the new decrees turned them into monsters, ones who show no mercy, not even to children? Suddenly, a cold hand touched his shoulder from behind. He turned slowly, cautiously, to see the remnants of moonlight filtering through rising smoke, behind which lurked the silhouette of a figure he didn't recognize. Tension surged in his chest like a compass needle spinning wildly between the urge to flee and the will to stand his ground before the unknown. Then the sound and vision both faded, leaving behind only a distant whisper. Kaelin. His breath halted. A question now hung in the morning air. Who was that voice, and would the next act bring a message of life or a warning of death? Kaelin swallowed the heavy air like a man standing at the edge of a bottomless abyss. The voice that whispered his name echoed again, but closer this time. He inhaled the dense blend of tar and smoke, feeling fear surge inside him like a wild beast breaking free from its cage. There was no time for hesitation now. He moved toward the direction from which the voice had come. He found a narrow alley stretching south, its edges nearly embracing one another. Kaelin ventured into it blindly, driven by a cocktail of awe, anxiety, and the gnawing question, could his sister be in greater danger than he ever imagined? With each step, the surrounding lights dimmed further. Closed wooden doors emerged, the last tongues of light fading behind shattered windows. As he ran a hand along the cold wall, a delicate hand touched his from behind a crumbling wall. His legs trembled for a second, and he heard his heartbeat laughing in his head. Is it Naira, or someone lying in wait? He was gripped by fear, but summoned his courage and slowly lifted the edge of a wooden panel, only to find a scrap of fine silk fabric, the kind worn by nobles, something completely out of place in the lower districts. The fabric was adorned with silver royal embroidery, stained with faint red drops that looked like dried tears upon its edge. A cry rang in his mind. How did a noble's garment end up here? And what does this blood have to do with Naira's disappearance? Suddenly, a large man emerged from the shadows, cloaked in darkness, his features obscured. A harsh, rasping voice broke from him like a hammer strike. "Drop your weapon, or else." The cramped room barely fit 2 people, but the danger didn't lie in the man alone. It came from the hidden presence shifting behind him. A shadow crept like a living thing across an old metallic wall. Kalen's limbs stiffened. The presence didn't walk. It contracted and expanded like a primal force desperate to swallow him, rage, and buried regret. Kalen took a step back, eyes fixed on the man before him, his expression a mixture of shock and desperation. "What do you want? Where is my sister?" The man replied, his voice drifting like mist from a dark cellar. "Nira is not here, but you'll be the first to uncover the whole truth, even if it costs you your shadow." At that moment, a warped image flickered over the cloaked man's body. He appeared as an ancient knight, holding a sword etched with glowing violet lines. The moment held its breath as the blade flashed toward Kalen's chest. But just as it neared, it shattered, as if an invisible hand had hovered over the steel with a nightmarish smile. A faint blue light reflected on the alley wall, revealing a swirl of magic flowing from the stranger's palm. As it unfurled, vision solidified before Kalen's eyes. An image of his old friend from the shadow class, Felix Vaunus, being abducted, his scream tearing through the depths of Kalen's soul. "Kalen, watch out! They took me because of something bigger than you think." With that final cry, the blue light vanished. Kalen remained in the darkness, clutching the noble silk fabric, a storm of thoughts crashing in his mind. What secret made Felix a target of this conspiracy? And how can I protect Nira if they possess magic powerful enough to rival the nobles themselves? His heartbeat thudded in his ears as his eyes clung to the last glimpse of his childhood friend disappearing into a darkness that made even shadows feel heavier. A final question hovered in his mind, one he couldn't answer aloud. Can he truly distinguish between the ally, Lana Roseville, who has always stood by him, and the enemy who breathes just behind him before that doubt drags him into a pit with no escape?